There is a interesting discovery that was made, I shouldn't say discovery, well, interesting discovery that was made by Coleman and Sidney Coleman and Eric Weinberg, not Steve Weinberg. Which I have requested Vikram to cover, but it basically starts with a Lagrangian whose V is at phi equal to 0, whose minima of V are at phi equal to 0. But after you do the loop calculations and calculate the effective action, they shift to non-zero. Okay, so it's a very cute and clever example they constructed. You start with a V like this, but it's a quantum electrodynamics, so there is a coupling to an electromagnetic field. So after it develops a logarithmic curvature like this and becomes like this. So if a charged field acquires a non-zero vacuum expectation value, it means the vacuum is quote charged, okay, and then electromagnetism will not be, gauge invariance will be broken, and the photon will acquire a small mass and etc. But which is what was eventually realized for standard model. We are actually living in a charged vacuum, if you like. If you want to feel strained and stretched, yeah, well, there is, because there is SU2 charge filling the vacuum, and that is why the W bosons are so massive, okay, because that wave is at 250 GeV. Okay, so that is the real machinery behind, and still perturbative, okay. But the other general point I want to tell you is that so here this F, in general we propose that, look, what is the most general derivative expansion including only local fields I can make of gamma, in which no higher than second derivative or square of the first derivative occurs, then this is the most general expansion. Except that you have to supply some overall factor which involves only phi and not derivatives, then you are still within that domain. What this, so this F would come from the quantum corrections, and sometimes you have to put that kind of a overall multiplication even otherwise. This is what I will come to next later. The other thing I want to tell you is that the real local expansion in terms of only local monomials of phi and d mu phi need not always be so civilized, okay. And in fact, there are things called effective field theories of pions and nucleons, which is called chiral Lagrangian. For hadronic physics. So here we are actually living in a world where the strong force has shielded all the color charge, and the only observed things are pions and nucleons. Then it turns out that those pions are Goldstone bosons. We didn't talk about it so far, but maybe I should have done Goldstone. Maybe next time we'll do that before I sign off and Vikram takes over. But in this case, the pions, oh God, so I'm getting into an unnecessarily long lecture. Let me simply say that pions are described by, are written purely as in the exponent. Okay. Why it is like that, it takes a long time to explain, but you put some coupling and then tau A pi A. Okay, tau is, so this is, yeah, this is SU2. So which belongs to, this is a SU2 valued space-time field. SU2 group valued, okay. Often one writes algebra valued fields like mu A tau A, the gauge field is algebra valued. But here we actually write group valued fields where this is phi of x. Tau A are the generators, and maybe I have to put a half factor, I think, but yeah, because the generators are half. So, whereas for hadrons or nucleons, we write a doublet, right. So, this U is a 2 by 2 matrix because it is exponent of tau. So, it is a SU2 valued matrix, SU2 matrix which is space-time field. This is a doublet representation, and then the Lagrangian is to be constructed from all possible terms consistent with global SU2, there is no gauge field, and Lorentz invariance. So if you do this, then the Lagrangian begins, looks like 1/2 d mu u dagger d mu u, and you can have higher things like a times d mu d nu u dagger d mu d nu u dagger u. You can start writing all kinds of terms, or you can begin to write d mu u dagger d mu u whole squared. Okay. So all kinds of terms begin to appear, and then you will also have psi dagger, or rather psi bar, and then d mu. So typically something like u dagger d mu u times this psi, the big psi bar gamma mu psi. Okay. So you begin to develop all kinds of terms which are all consistent with SU2 global symmetry, and of course contract all Lorentz indices. So you can have quite a wild Lagrangian like this, which will not fit into this kind of simple form, and in that case you do not expect to derive any effective potential because all kinds of derivatives appear. This is called chiral Lagrangian. Reason for chiral is long to explain, that has to do with this hypothesis. This was all figured out by Weinberg first, and then but he did not put it in the formal way. So and of course S. Weinberg, and by Callan, Coleman, Wess and Zumino. So Weinberg pointed out that you had to write all possible terms and then gave a prescription, but these people then figured out that what it amounted to was doing this. Okay, so it is not always that you will have this. You can have all kinds of wild Lagrangians, but you can still define an effective potential, effective action. There is nothing against defining an effective action. except that you then have to include the higher derivatives as well with front factors containing local products of fields. Okay. So the method will remain valid, but this expansion will be completely useless because there are all kinds of non-local pieces. You can then do a derivative expansion which is local. So before this approach was developed, people were using what is called current algebra. So because what you do observe is there is some kind of conserved charge, I mean baryon number is conserved and isospin was conserved. So you can write the currents J mu A as equal to psi bar tau A gamma mu psi. Okay. So these currents would obey the algebra of SU2, and you just try to derive everything from, but you have to treat them as quantum fields, so their local products are not well defined. And then you can derive various relationships, but that was a very complicated method, and this at least recast the theory into the theory of Lagrangian. I want to make some, so I think next time I will try to do, one we said was try to prove this connected diagrams, proper definition and why exponential of z regenerates the exponential of connected diagrams, generates all possible diagrams or Green's functions rather, and maybe the Goldstone theorem. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about what is called asymptotic theory. And this is based on Isaacson and Joubert. And if you can understand the writing at first go, please come and collect a prize from me. And if you realize it, so it's like a kaon, you know, it's called kaon, no? In Zen Buddhism. Your guru gives you a mantra and then you contemplate it for 10 years and then one day you are enlightened, oh this is what it means. So that book is like that. So it talks in terms of koans. Okay. So the main kind of puzzle that people till date face, it's really, you know, so what is meant by continuum was developed by Cantor and Dedekind and others in 19th century. And at first, even within mathematical community, there was a lot of reaction to that. But then they actually realized the value of nailing down what is meant by the continuum. But when quantum mechanics came and to be described in unbounded space, it really caused a lot of problem to understanding everything. And the problems still persist in a sense, but we kind of regulate them. So the problem is like this. Let me draw time axis, and I'm drawing, so well, quantum mechanics somehow people draw like this. So minus infinity is here and plus infinity is here. It's a transition amplitude, right? So t equal to minus infinity to plus infinity. So what we think of is that, so let's try to draw the energy spectrum. Spectrum just means set of eigenvalues. And actually it's a continuum. So drawing this is only symbolic, it's a genuine continuum, but there are levels like this. And we expect that the theory is free. So the whole assumption of perturbation theory is predicated on the assumption that asymptotically, whatever that means, the particles are free. non-interacting. And if you really force me to say what this asymptotically means, well, finally, ultimately, in the days of cosmic rays, they used to observe these bubble chamber diagrams, right? Something crosses your plate, there's some emulsion plate, and you can see all kinds of nice curves if you see old cosmic ray plates. That is what a particle is. Ultimately, that's what it means. It produces pretty consistent tracks, and the story has not changed till date, except that today we have gigantic detectors with a beam pipe running through them, and human beings are something like this, and they produce huge tracks, okay, huge slew of tracks. So what is meant by particle is that. So it is what condensed matter people tell you are electrons are not. They are really quasi-particles, and nobody isolated an electron from it. It's just something you apply some voltage and something happens, okay. You don't know what's flowing inside, but yeah, there is a good description in terms of almost free quanta, which are fermionic, and it's the gauge invariance which enforces that they still have to carry unit charge. So those quasi-particles look just like electrons, but the real electrons are observed in these emulsions. They are just tracks. So we do know that there are these tracks, and we do know that gluons and quarks do not produce such tracks. So gluons and quarks do not exist in asymptotic states. So the asymptotically there are particles and that they are non-interacting. But then you also want interaction because they have to do something. So in the region near t equal to 0, interaction turns on. So in elementary quantum mechanics they tell you first, you have done Fermi's golden rule and all that. So they say, well, you introduce a kind of delta function, theta function, which turns on, has a long plateau and then switches off, but the off part is going to be infinite, it's going to go to infinity. So this is where it turns on and then turns off. Of course, nature doesn't wait to turn things on and off. So what do you mean by this? So then people, after a lot of thinking, have come up with the following prescriptions that keep our sanity and allow us to use the mathematics we know. First is that the spectrum remains the same, okay. This is a very big assumption. So I send in particles, they interact, and while they are interacting, of course, they have some interaction energies and so on. What will happen is that of one free particle and another free particle, they may become something else here, okay, and develop some interaction energy. But the spectrum is the same, the list of eigenvalues is the same, although they will occupy different entries in the list and then come back, because ultimately they are again still electron and muon or whatever they are. So they will come back as free particles. In the intermediate region they will get kicked off here and there, but within that same spectrum, the spectrum of H and H0, so hypothesis 1 is that the spectra of H0 and H0 plus Hi are identical. Now for one thing, this precludes any bound states, because bound state would mean that there are some states below E equal to 0. So it actually doesn't allow you to have bound states. So you add a caveat that bound states, if any, should be added by hand. which would be some finite spectrum, can be added by hand. But it doesn't change the structure of the overall spectrum. It's just kind of a few things added at the bottom, and you never really are able to calculate it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so but at the same time, you want the field in this region to still be the free field. Fields phi and field in the, so we call in and out fields, right? So the fields phi in, phi out in the in and out regions obey the same, obey free field equations, and the same property holds for phi in the interaction region. This you know, this we use already in quantum mechanics too, because this is called the interaction picture. We evolve phi of x using only phi 0, h 0. So x and t. And this could be at in the in region, okay, with T1 very large and negative. So this is what we propose, and then define a, okay, so we will not get into the, you know, the interaction picture. Now because of this fact, some kind of psychology, some you can see beginning to see the contradiction, because we want the asymptotic fields to obey canonical commutation relations which are equivalent to this evolution, but really the field which is in the interaction region has to obey this, but it has to somehow carry more information. So the resolution of this is to propose that actually there is a normalization factor between the two. So propose that phi of x is some normalization phi x in, and we assume that it will be same as with somewhere between 0 and 1. Yes, yes, and a real number. So this is sometimes called wave function renormalization. What this means is that thus while see what is the effect of acting with phi on vacuum. Phi has a creation and a destruction operator. So the destruction operator acting on 0 will give 0. The creation operator will connect it to a one particle state and will be exactly equal to 1. And if you want, this is 0 minus and this is 0 plus. Okay. So these are just one because they produce one particle state, but 1 phi 0 is equal to square root z times this. And therefore less than 1. This means that phi has more content than just one particle states. It contains all the pair productions and things like that, which are not terribly a part of the interaction, but they are sort of kinematic redefinition of the vacuum. Okay. So I am now actually borrowing words from Isaacson and Joubert. One particle states do not exhaust the content of phi, the full phi. So for example, you might get away with a p minus p . So conserve all charges, momenta, everything that you have to conserve in the vacuum, but such states may be contributing to the actual phi. Secondly, to avoid the contradiction with this, we also have to propose that this statement is not an operator statement. Okay. So in terms of Hilbert space, so I started numbering something, right? So perturbation theory, non-interest spectrum is this, the fields this, then we say number 3. These are not logically independent ones, but kind of build on top of each other, and with the additional caveat that so the above that this relation star so this is called weak equivalence. Okay, not an operator statement. It is true only by matrix element, but not true for the whole operator. Right, it gets puffed up. Okay, it has more things in it than the inner out. Vacuum at plus infinity and vacuum at minus infinity. Technically you have to keep them different, because all you can do is that you see free particles in the in region, you see free particles in the out region, but you have passed through this region of interaction, and states in quantum mechanics are defined only up to an overall phase. So you don't know what overall phase it may have picked up in going from in to out. So people technically keep it like that. For most part it doesn't matter, but there are interesting experiments where, for example, vacuum is not really stable and things like that. So then actually even the out state is not true vacuum either, but there can be phases like this. In fact, one famous example is Barry's phase. It doesn't have to do with asymptotic theory, but that is where you evolve a system through a series of changes, parametrically change Hamiltonian. You come back to the same value of the Hamiltonian, but the two states will differ by a phase. If there is somehow a topological obstruction to shrinking that path, if the path cannot be shrunk. So the point is, when although the initial and final Hamiltonians look identical, if you have either got a space or time region in between, so that you do not have a way of directly comparing, then you should leave a relative phase between them. So if you send the thing through LHC, don't expect that that electron is same as that one. It may have got a phase in it. Okay. So the next steps have to do are rather technical. So we will stop today with just writing out this thing which you can take as homework, which is as a preparation for the next main statement. So what I do want to do is cover what is called the Shelin-Lehmann representation. So this is some kind of a Swedish A, and people tell me that this is spoken Shelin. So, but as a preparation, check that for a free field, the commutator phi x phi y can be written in the form, and now I am slightly on thin ice because I am using, I don't personally use Isaacson and Joubert normalization, but for the time being I will use it because I am taking it from there. I will tell you how it differs. Which is defined to be equal to I times delta epsilon k0 is sine of k0. So you can try to do this. Basically, you know that delta function is, when it has a polynomial inside, is product of delta functions at the various zeros divided by the norm of the derivative of the function at that point. So you can carry out the dk0 integration and you should recover the thing above. Okay. And Isaacson and Joubert notation is that so nobody can change the canonical relations, phi pi have to be 1, but in AA dagger you can insert some change in normalization. So I am used to using, along with Weinberg and Sudarshan and so on, to just set this equal to delta 3. But Isaacson and Joubert put a 2 pi cube 2 omega k here. Okay. So if you don't put any other normalization, then this is just like harmonic oscillator. It will just raise and lower the number operator. But if you put this, then there are some advantages to the what Isaacson and Joubert like about this is that this quantity together is Lorentz covariant. So their creation destruction operators are also Lorentz covariant and so on. Minor advantages, nothing very great, but this is the normalization they use. So in that normalization this will come out like this. So you have to do a free field expansion also with d3k over 2 pi cube 2 omega k, etc. Then the AA dagger, you use this, then you should get that. Okay, good. So we will start with this next time. And yes, if you would like to be prepared, then you read this section from Isaacson and Joubert in a chapter called asymptotic theory. I wrote it somewhere. A section called asymptotic theory, which is in the chapter called external fields, the effect of external fields or something.